Good morning. I am, in fact, Pastor Dan Walker, live and in living color. That's a joke that my father gave me many years ago when I was working on my very first attempt at a broadcast. I was an announcer for one of the high schools, either my junior high school, where they always had the morning announcements, and I was auditioning for a morning announcer position. And as I said, my father said, he gave me that joke. So it's amazing the things we remember. I would have had to have been somewhere between 7 and 8 years old when this happened, and I still remember it to this day. Wow. And it's still not funny. So it wasn't funny then. It's not funny now. Oh, my goodness. So here's the deal. We have been discussing for the last several weeks why men don't come to church. And we've had any number of philosophical discussions, any number of philosophical arguments, of biblical treatises. I want to publicly thank all the different people who took time out of their busy schedules to come on and to raise their opinions. Today, I don't know if I'm going to close out the concept, but we are definitely going to speak on it today, and I hold on to your hats. I'm going to tell you right now, men, you're not going to like me. Okay, I'll tell you that right now, because I am about to lay the blame squarely where it belongs, that being in your lap. If you have an issue with women in the church, women running things, women hierarchy in the church, if you have an issue with women preachers, if you have an issue with women evangelists, if you think that the church has become too feminine, or even I heard somebody call it a feminocracy, you are definitely not going to like me this morning. Because, or if you have any, if you have any integrity, you will not only like me, you'll stand up and cheer. Because the fault of why men do not come to church lies squarely with the man. It's too easy to sit back and say women should not be preachers, and because a woman is preaching, I'm not coming to the church. It's too easy to say that women are in charge of too many things, and because they're in charge of too many things, I'm not coming to church. In other words, it's too easy to blame everybody but yourself. Listen, guys, as men, we cannot be stopped doing anything we think needs to get done, either good or bad. The history of society, the history of the world, whether you are atheistic or a believer in a God, or even a believer in Jesus Christ, or if you're following some other quote-unquote religious structure, it is all about you. It is all about your choices. It is all about your decisions. It's all about you. So, having said that, if you are attending a church where the women are in charge, I'm going to tell you that the women are in charge because the men won't stand up, and the men will not take charge. Anytime men take charge, women help, women follow, but they do not have to lead. If you study the Word of God, you discover that whenever women were placed in positions of power, it was because there was no man willing to take the reins. Now, having said that, I am not in any way negating any woman who thinks that, who believes that, who has faith that God has called her to do what she's doing. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say My belief that God has called you to do what you're doing is exactly proportionate to my belief that God has called me to do what I'm doing. If I cannot willingly or say that that I'm called by God to do what I do, how could I ever begin to denigrate your calling? Now, here's the problem. In order to understand the male-female actions within church, you have to understand the male-female actions in life. Because we all did not start in a church, we all started in life. So our abilities to interact with women come from our experience of how we had to interact with women while growing up. I've had, for those of you who know me personally know that I've recently returned from a trip that proved out to be ill-fated. It was not a total disaster because I came back alive. But suffice to say, it was an ill-fated trip, doomed from the word go without me knowing about it or whatever. I'm willing to say that perhaps the signs were all there and I ignored them or didn't see them or whatever. But it was a disastrous trip, which I have to take again, to be truthfully, because of how the first time it got so fouled up. Having said that, I've had a lot of time to think and contemplate. Everybody has a prayer closet. My prayer closet goes down the highway at 75 miles an hour. I do my best study, my best meditation, and sometimes my best communication with God while I'm on the highway driving a distance. And he has a chance to work with me, and I have a chance to listen to him and be focused on what he's saying and what he's doing in my life and the direction. So that's, everybody has a prayer closet. That's mine. No, the speed limit is usually 65. Usually 65. In my defense, if you're driving 65 miles an hour on today's nation's highway, you're about to get run over. But as it turns out, this particular trip, I was not able to drive too fast because of what I was doing. There was a weight on the truck and the whole bit. I was towing a vehicle, so I had no choice but to stay at the speed limit. And no, speed limit was 65. And when I was towing, going downhill, I started to hit speeds at like 65, 70, but I watched everything and it was okay. But as soon as I start climbing the hill, then the vehicle would drop back to 30 or 40, depending on how high the hill was and whatever. So it was just a trip. But my point being is that for me, it's a place of solitude. And I'm able to focus my mind on the Lord. I'm able to listen to what he has to say. And I'm able to ask certain questions and get the answers. I don't necessarily have to like the answers. That's the other thing that we have to be recognized of, is that when we talk to God, the concept is that we're not meeting God on his level. And that's a problem for some of us because we think we're so holy, we start our prayers with, as long as I'm in the neighborhood. And the active point is that we're never in the neighborhood. We're never on equal par with God. We cannot be on an equal par with God because he is the creator. We are the created. The picture cannot say to the painter, I'm equal to you, because the picture did not paint the painter painted the picture. So we have to be always mindful of the reverence relationship between us and God, between man and God. And a lot of times we don't take that seriously. We do not give it the respect it deserves. And because we don't give it the respect it deserves, our prayers are not answered if they're even listened to. Because God is waiting for us to get our minds in the proper position to ask for the right thing so that he can respond with the right answer. So Some could say, well, maybe your weekend wouldn't have been so disastrous if you spent more time talking to God before you undertook the trip. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That is definitely a thing. Having said that, okay, now what? Does that mean that I am negated as a pastor? No, it doesn't. It just means that I'm human as a pastor. And sometimes things can go wrong, and sometimes all the signs are there, and we just don't see them because we're blinded by our own light, or because we're blinded by our own desires, or just because. We've got to stop beating ourselves up. We've got to stop wallowing. When things get screwed up, we have to go back to the source. We have to go back to God and say, look, this is all messed up. I probably should have listened to you in the first place. I didn't. I'm listening now. What is the best solution? How do we handle it? And, I'll just do whatever you told me to do like I should have done in the first beginning. Okay, God understands that. But to sit there and blame and to point fingers and to say this, that, and the other, or I told you so, as our friends are always willing to tell us, I told you that was going to be this. I told you. Yeah, you did. Now what? Okay, you happy now? You told me it was going to be a disaster. It was a disaster. Are you happy? Have you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish? And obviously the answer is supposed to be no. It's supposed to be. But sometimes it's yeah. Yes, I'm glad that you messed up. I'm glad I was right. But anyway, so why men don't come to church? Because they don't want to. Because they've allowed the false images. They've allowed the false experiences. They've allowed the negative things. They've allowed all the stuff. I heard this morning. It's so telling. Some people got a false glimpse of a relationship with God, and because of that, they cannot ever get the right picture. I was listening over the past weekend. I was listening to a mother talk, quote unquote, to her son from the balcony of their apartment. The son was down in the courtyard. I don't know what had happened. I don't know what had gone wrong. All I know is that the son was headed back to the apartment, back to the door to go in the apartment, crying. The mother came out onto the balcony and shouted down to him, "Stop crying, you're acting like a little bee." I'm just saying bee, everybody knows what the word was. And I thought to myself, oh my God. We have two people who are going to be forever scarred by this. We have a caller? Good morning, caller, you're on the air.
Not too bad.
Oh, hi. Hang on a second. Let's get this proper. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Sound Travels is pleased to present to some and introduce to others Mother Ann Parish. She is one of the mothers of the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church, and full disclosure, she is my actual real mother. Hi, Mom.
Good morning. How are you? How is everyone this morning?
Everybody is just peachy and keen.
Wonderful.
I used to say everybody's both hunky and dory, and then I got a phone call saying you can't say that. So I don't say that anymore. But in this current generation, half the people don't know the different curse words for the different races, so they didn't get it. But the old heads did. Anyway, Mom, what's on your spirit?
Following your lead this morning.
Following my lead? Oh, goody. So I am trying to bring to a conclusion this concept of why men don't come to church, and I have laid it squarely, flat out in front of and on the men themselves. They don't come to church because they are not man enough to come to church. They don't worship God because they're not man enough to worship God. They have allowed all of the negative images. I've just told a story about a mother who shouted down to her son who was headed back to the house crying, "Stop crying, you're acting like a little bee." And I thought to myself, well, there's a ruined kid. Whether, and maybe I'm wrong. But when you grow up with your mother telling you that your desire to express an emotion makes you a little bee, that I don't even, as a son, I don't know how to comprehend that. As a mother, how do you comprehend that?
I never could. Children will get on your nerves, your last nerves. Every parent in the world will agree with that. But it's up to you what you feed into your child. From the time he's born, it's up to the mother to feed the child, to make the concept of how the child should grow. The father's there, but he doesn't take, he takes the role of, we'll go fishing together, we'll play baseball together, he's going to be a football star, but that day-to-day is the mother's job. That minute-to-minute is the mother's job. And it's according to how the mother, what she was raised in. If she was raised in positive attitude, then she'll continue to extend positive attitude, even to sons. But if she has not been, then yes, you'll find, I've seen mothers cuss out 2 or 3-year-olds, and you look at, and you want to say to them, don't do that, because all you're doing is telling him that that's all the world's got to offer him, because you are his world. You are the first person he sees, he loves, and it's up to us to protect him in every way while he's growing. And when you don't, you end up with angry children. You end up with children who are wondering, don't know why they're angry, but they're angry. So we as parents, especially as mothers, we have to, no matter what your upbringing was, if it was negative, turn it around for your child. Classic story. In my lifetime, I was never hugged or kissed as a child. My children don't come near me until they hug me or kiss me. They don't leave until they let me know they're gone with a hug and a kiss. I took the negative and I turned it around. What I didn't get, I taught my children how to give it. And it's the way we as parents look at. Now, as for men not going to church, I can agree with you to a certain extent that men have stepped back. They don't see the necessity of, they see the necessity of earning an income, bringing it home for the woman to do what she needs to do. But they've given up. They didn't lose it. It wasn't taken. They gave up the right to be the head. Back in my day, you saw the father, the mother, and the children going to church. Now you see the mother going and asking the children, do they want to go?
Yeah, let me just jump in right here. That in and of itself is a concept that I find it difficult, if not impossible, to handle. The only choices we were ever given as children were, do you want another whooping? Do you want another? That was it. That was the only choice. The choice was to do the work or get another whooping or get a whooping. Do you want another slap? Do you want another belt? Should I get the switch or those were the choices we were given. Whether to go to church, whether to eat our vegetables, whether to take a bath, those were never choices.
No.
They just weren't. So I have a hard time with this concept of, do you want to do something as a child? And I see mothers do it all the time.
Yeah, a 3-year, you asking a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
You want to go to church? Or if you're taking, he's got his head in his Game Boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whatever they're called.
They got cell phones now. All these children now at 5 years old know how to use a cell phone in terms of going up. Huh?
I know my 4-year-old can do things that I have a great granddad 4 years old.
Yeah.
He can lock my phone. I can't unlock it because he remembers how to unlock it.
Yeah. One of your kids got hold of your phone and blocked me out. Remember, I had to come down and take me out because I couldn't call you on my phone because I was locked out of your phone. Right. I had to come when I came in. I said, "Give me your phone, please," and I was locked out.
We have given up our right, and then you wonder why the children have no direction. You're not giving them, he's an individual. He's got to speak his mind. No, I'll speak his mind. I'm his individual. And that I do not, and I'm from the old school. You do not talk back to me.
No.
Yeah, you do not stand toe-to-toe with me.
Nope.
You do not call me by my first name.
Nope. Keep going. You don't raise your voice at you.
And when you do.
Oh my God. And wait a minute, there's a few more. We don't cut our eyes at you.
Not that I see it.
And we don't under talk to you as if you're not in the room.
No,
I'm just saying I'm just filling in the blanks here.
Because I'm not giving up my right as your parent. What if I'm 100 and you're 70?
It don't matter.
Still the parent.
It don't matter. Right. And just so you know, you can't whoop us all. What did Solomon do to my dear brother Joe? He had him up against the wall with one hand.
Right.
And you had to go in and say, Solomon, put him down. He talked, what did he yell at you or something? He did something to you.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but you said, Solomon, put him down. But Mommy, he yelled at you.
But I have not, we as parents of this modern age have given us our rights to be parents. We buddies, we cool, and all of that. No, I'm not your buddy. I'm not cool with you. I'm your parent.
I'm not equal with you. And I was literally...
I never forget one of my children said to me one day, teenager, and Malvy, and she said, I don't like you. I said, I don't like you either. She looked at me like, what? I said, there will come a day when we won't like each other, but it's not today. So get out of my face before I help you out.
See? That's parenting. That's parenting.
Yeah, but we've given up that right. We got the psychologists to say they've got to be individuals. We've got people People who've never had children don't want children, don't like children, telling you how to raise your children.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
And you relinquish what your right as the parent. I don't say be vicious, not at all. But let your children know when you speak, that's the final word.
Right.
When you say, do it. Same thing. That daughter is supposed to be. I have a granddaughter. I watch her and her husband. They raise their children as one. If he said no, he said no. And he said yes, he said yes. The children realize at an early age they are a united front. We can't run to one and to the other and get our way. We're not going to overrule each other. And they will actually know, what did your mother say? What did your father say? They did not give up their right as parents. One daughter's wife is working on a PhD in her early 20s. She's done her master's and all of that. The son is on a full scholarship. The daughter went to college on a full scholarship. Why? Because mom and dad said, you will sit down and study.
Right.
You will learn. You will be productive.
You will achieve.
I give you a classic example. I was visiting down there, and we were all sitting there watching TV, and his father didn't raise his voice. He said, it's time to go to bed. I saw these two teenagers get up, give me a kiss goodnight, and went to bed. It wasn't, can we finish the movie? Grandma's here. None of that. They knew that when he spoke, even in a quiet voice, that it was time to listen to the command. The command said, time to go to bed.
Right.
They went. They didn't beg, they didn't stomp, they didn't murmur, because they had not given up their rights as parents. Fathers need to step in and take their rightful place, not domineering, but this, I'm with your mother. We're going to raise you together. Whether you're together or not.
Right. Hold up for a second, because you have touched on this is like the touchstone as to why men are not involved in church as much as they're supposed to be. Men are not involved in life as much as they're supposed to be. The church is more of a result than it is a cause, because men have not taken and see, here's the issue. I think that when women were told they had the power to do, well, I'm going to say it this way. Women were told that they had the power to be whores. So men were told, oh, okay, I don't have to respect women anymore because they're being whores. So because the women are not holding a standard, the men are not holding a standard, and we have a whole nation of whoremongering men who are not being men, and then they're not being fathers, because the women say, well, I don't need you to help me raise this kid. I can raise the kid on my own. Not true, because now the government has to step in and raise the kid, because you don't have any money, and you have to raise the kid. You don't have any skill. Even if you have the skill, the kid requires a commitment. So this whole philosophy that I can do anything I want with my body, and because I can do anything I want with my body, a guy can do anything he wants with my body, and now we have this kid, but he's not taking responsibility because he wasn't in it for responsibility. He was in it because he could be in it. And the kid just happened to happen, and it's not my responsibility. Why should I do anything with the kid? I didn't want the kid. I just wanted the fun, quote unquote. So there's this whole thing that is falling apart where everybody has dropped their position, especially when it comes to how God had things planned. Okay, Mom.
But see, from Adam's time, when he gave up his right to Eve,
Ooh, say that.
God gave him the law.
Right.
He was supposed to pass down the law as well as uphold the law, the commandment. And he, for whatever reason, decided no. And from then on, men have been backing away because if you remember, the first excuse he made, he didn't say I was wrong. He said that woman you gave me.
That woman you gave me. God becomes...
It's my fault to act in this way.
Everybody blamed everybody else.
Right.
That woman you gave me. The serpent beguiled me.
The generation.
Right.
And what you see is the product of Adam's. Okay, Eve ate it. She told me to eat it. I'm gonna eat it too, because I want to be with Eve. All right. So now you have the situation. You have, like I said, angry children.
Yeah.
Father's not on the scene. Mother's struggling at her wit's end, walking away, or just she's there, but the body's there. The mind and the emotions is not there.
Right.
The feelings are not there. And the husband, he drops by, picks up the kids for a few hours, takes them back home. He's through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've given up their rights. And we as parents, even in today's age, if you notice, grandparents raise grandchildren differently.
Oh, yes.
We raise our children.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
but still, even being a grandmother, my grandchildren know when I say no, ain't no use well, how come we can't grandma and all of that? Because I have not given up my rights as a parent. And the same to my children. Listen, now you need to do this, you need to do that. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And at the end of it, there's no more discussion. Because I am the parent. I am the one that needs to be praying for your soul, watching out for your soul.
Yeah, just for a second.
Asking God to cover you. I am the one that's going before the Lord for you, whether you go or not. It's not my concern. My concern is to pray for my children. My concern is to make sure that they know who God is, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They know. That's my job as parent. I didn't never ask my children if they wanted to go
right.
to church. Their father didn't go.
Right.
I didn't ask them if they wanted to go. They knew Saturday night when I started laying out clothes.
Right.
You get ready to get your bath, whatever you needed. They knew Sunday morning, get up, eat some cereal. The older children help the babies get dressed while I'm getting dressed, and then all of us went to church. They knew they were going to participate. Well, I didn't ask them, do y'all want to be in the Easter play?
Nope.
Would you like to be?
Nope.
Play. You will be in it.
Yeah.
Because we as parents have to take back our parents' rights. We have to take back our head. The father has to come in and take back his right as head.
Hang on a second. I'm going to ask.
Living in the house or not.
Yeah, hang on a second.
What does your mother say? Okay,
Mom?
let me talk to your mother about it.
Mom, hold up a second. I'm going to ask our engineer, the illustrious Pastor Hobbs, in his household, did you have decisions to make, or were, in other words, what was your experience growing up? Did you grow up in a male-female household? Was father there and was mother there? And what was the order? How did that affect you?
Well, I was brought up in a two-parent household. My mother and father were very much present.
Louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Okay.
So I was brought up in a household where both parents were present. Both parents were actually pastors as well.
Okay.
So I think that definitely had a lot to do with it, because we were reared by the word.
Mm-hmm.
But as it relates to a hierarchy, if you will, or roles that they played.
I've got a call coming in. I love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So as it relates to the order and growing up, is my father was the authority, basically, growing up with, and so we were always directed to, if we would go to my mother, it would be, what does your father say?
Right.
It would be, go to, ultimately the final word would be with what my father said. And she didn't challenge that, not before us anyway.
Right. Did she ever, I don't want to say fight, but was there ever in other words, did they stand as a united front?
The interesting thing is they did. For the most part, it's interesting because the family dynamics in my household, I'm one of 13 kids. Mother gave birth to 13 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 6 of us were raised differently than the
latter 7. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. So the first 6, when we're in New Jersey, it was a unified front. But when we moved, the latter half was very different. The dynamics were just very different. And I'll give you for instance, my baby brother, who is one of twins, my mother, again, had him late in life.
Mm-hmm.
And his twin passed when only months old.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother grieved the loss of her child.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that 2 of my siblings were also, one was stillborn, I think. And so, grieving this loss of children. So here she has her last child, and his twin passed away. So she felt like he was suffering because he was missing his twin, and this bond that one has with twins that, quite candidly, he doesn't even remember he even has a twin.
Right.
But milked it for all that it was worth, because it gave him a whole lot of grace and
leverage,
which he totally leveraged. But so they developed this relationship that was really different. It was like, don't challenge him, don't say anything. In fact, it was like, there was a word she would say, don't bash in his first name. Don't bash. Like,
right.
He suffered more than any of us all have suffered, and it really was her own pain.
Right.
I think that was projected.
She was transferring at that point. Yeah.
So so we get it, but nonetheless, we saw things that he got away with. To your point with your brothers, right? That we would not get away with.
Right.
And we wanted to intervene because we're like, did you just say that to your mother?
Right.
But we couldn't because the dynamic was different.
Got you.
Even challenged my father with the dynamics, and so we were like, whoa. So it just was weird. It was just different. So as time evolved, the relationship was different with the second half than it was with the first half. That it was clear that there was this unified front.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that being said, it's difficult to ask this question because there's family and there's pride and there's confidentiality. Did it help him become better, or did it stifle him? Do you think, or did it have no effect on him?
That's a matter of perspective and opinion.
Yes, well, that's all.
Right, and again, as you said, it's delicate because it's family.
It's family, so you got to. If you want to beg out, I get it.
No. I mean, I honestly, I think I think that it has fostered a level of dysfunctional codependency.
Okay.
That's just my assessment.
It's an accurate assessment, because you can't have, everything has a cause and effect. So you can't have an effect without a cause. You just can't. So yeah, I was not raised, and my mother was talking about the fact that she was raised with no affection. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm. You're the same way in that you were raised with no affection, or that you raised with no affection? I spent 7 years with no affection. From 7 to 14, no physical contact other than punishment, no encouraging words, no hugs, no kisses, no, let me kiss the boo-boo. I was usually the boo-boo. Whatever was wrong was me. So, yeah, so I get that. I call it being raised in silence. It wasn't that I was not, I was just raised that way. There was just no affection.
And
how did that affect you? How did that impact you?
The easiest way to say it is compassion. I do understand, because I've always had a brain. Mm-hmm. So I retreated into the world of my brain. Mm-hmm. So by the time I'm done at 14, I am thinking, whether I am or I'm not, that I'm smarter than most people. Mm-hmm. Because I spent a lot of time knowing stuff or learning stuff. Mm-hmm. Without compassion, for the person. So it's taken me a long time to learn what I call human stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's how it affected me. Mm-hmm. I saw the love and compassion I saw given to my siblings was a mixed bag. The closest one to me was my cousin. He was a few months older than me, and his father was just incredibly abusive. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would be caught in the fallout of that because of me. The son was inadequate. There was some things that I could just do without thinking about that the son could not do. So he was punished by his father, mm-hmm. who said to him, well, how Dan can do it, why can't you? Simple things like being able to walk in the dark, not being afraid of. I'm not afraid of the dark. Mm-hmm. He was. Mm-hmm. So those type of things. Mm-hmm. Guys do stupid things. We were given alcohol at a young age, mm-hmm. and it was gin, and gin is some of the nastiest stuff you want to give a kid. He spit his out. Mm-hmm. I just drank it. Mm-hmm. He got punished. I didn't. You see what I mean? I just, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he spit it out in the whole bit, and in his father's eyes.
Boston, Praise Radio TV Network.
So so those type of things, did they shape me? Absolutely. Did I find that I have to come? Absolutely. We have a caller? We do. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning there, Brother Dan. This is Brother Dan.
Hey, Brother Dan. It's good to hear from another Dan.
It is.
Are you part of the Brotherhood of Dan?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. We're about to have I know who this is. This is my brother from another mother.
That's correct.
I know exactly who this is.
That's correct.
So he is definitely a part of the Brotherhood of Dan. This is my 6'3", I'll say 200 plus Caucasian brother.
200 plus. Thanks for the roses, Dan.
Who plays?
I haven't been 200 pounds since I was a fetus.
Well, you'll be happy to know that there's less of me to love, because ever since my infirmities and ever since my illnesses, I've actually lost about 50 pounds.
Wow.
I'm down from, I was 292 in April, and I'm now 252.
I noticed you were looking mighty fly there, brother.
Yeah, well, somebody else said that to me. There's less of me to love, as it was put. And I was like, and they said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, it's quite simple. I'm not eating as much.
Yeah.
The medications I take are certainly helpful, but the bottom line is I'm not eating as much.
That is the ultimate scientific formula.
Yeah, stop
is what it all
eating.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Last month, I took advantage of some extreme stress, and I just started saying, am I reaching for food because I'm hungry?
Yes.
Am I really hungry?
No.
And no. Boom, 35 pounds down.
Amen. See, it's possible, and I didn't give Weight Watchers a dime. I didn't give, I didn't do any of the exercises. I didn't do anything but stop eating.
That's right. Now, Dan, 35 pounds for somebody my size is like tossing a lawn chair off the back deck of a cruise ship. But
it's a start. It's a start. And I have a visual in mind. I remember when I was younger, I could look down and see my feet. And all of a sudden I couldn't. Yeah. So something's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to be an A cup. I'm a guy.
That's right.
That's right. So there's some motivating things happening here that say, okay, do you want to be a B cup? Then stop eating.
That's right.
If I order something and it's a big meal, I'll eat half of it, take the other half home, and if I eat it later on the day or whatever, but I don't, in other words, you got to learn, push your plate away. You got to. So anyway, you're motivated by this concept of men not being men, which is why they don't go to church, men not standing up. Men have advocated their position in society, which is why the women seem to be in charge, in my opinion. They're not.
This?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on some very critical issues in our culture today that are tearing the country apart. And if you wanted to just destroy a culture, you wouldn't start with attacking the military.
No.
You wouldn't start with going after politics. You would start with the home.
Right.
The basic core family unit. And right now we're seeing every traditional norm,
No, you're right.
Household.
A
family that's led by the father, and supported by the mother.
Yeah.
In
every traditional home.
roles.
Yeah.
Every traditional home. Everything is being attacked.
Yeah.
Right down to little Johnny. Well, little Johnny.
Are you sure you're a Johnny and not a Jane? Did we lose you? We may have lost him. But yeah, the fact that is little Johnny actually a Johnny? Yeah, we lost him. He'll probably call back. We lost him. Or is he a Jane? And see, here's the problem. If Johnny wants to be a Jane, or if Johnny thinks he's a Jane, I'm not going to stand judgment over that. But I'm also not going to support that until Johnny can make the decision himself. And as a child, he can't make that decision.
Correct.
As a child, you are a boy until you're a man, and then if you wish to be anything else, go ahead and be it. But as a parent, and I get it, it's I've talked to several parents of transgender children, and I've invited them, I've begged them, please come on the show and explain your anguish, your pain, your decisions. Help me to understand, help us to understand how you were able to, or are able to say to 12-year-old Johnny that it's okay for him to be 12-year-old Jane.
Right.
I can't.
We don't let a kid under the age of 16 drive a car. We don't let a kid under the age of 20
legally
buy a beer.
Legally.
Yeah.
I was driving at 13.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so legally. I was my father's chauffeur at 14. Legally. Illegally. But
the reason is that kids do not have sufficient judgment capabilities to handle that responsibility. So where are we getting off telling them that they can make irreversible decisions that will potentially ruin their lives at the age of when?
Yeah, listen. My quote unquote homosexual friends, and I do have some, tell me that from their earliest inkling they were attracted to the same sex. From the earliest inkling. So I'm not going to argue nature versus nurture. I am not smart enough, and I'm not cruel enough to denigrate their experience. I know that from my earliest experience, I wanted to see boobies. Okay? And whatever else was there, because I didn't know what was there, but I wanted to see boobies. So when you tell me that from your earliest inclining, you wanted to see the male appendage or you wanted to be with guys, I'm not going to argue that with you. That is something between you and your creator. What I will do is say, when you can make that decision legally, like all the other legal decisions, you do what you want to do. You do what you want to do. But I am not going to give you beta blockers. I'm not going to give you hormones. I'm not going to pay for or even allow you to alter your body in any way, shape, or form until you can decide to do that. And we understand that, because I know mothers who will not circumcise their male children. We got 1 minute. Oh my goodness. You got to call back at the beginning of next week, because we got to continue this. I am Pastor Dan Walker. I am so privileged to pastor the New Bethel Baptist Church in Framingham, Mass., where God is doing amazing things. The end of October will be our annual Women's Day. Mother Ann Parish will be in attendance. We're still working on our guest speaker. We're inviting people to come out and be a part of it. It's a women's thing. It's a very powerful thing. It's for women only. But the guys, I think we're going to have a cookout in the parking lot while they're in there doing their thing. Tune in next week to Sound Travels. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Staying asleep, total torment, forever in a day. No time for a party. You're too busy screaming, I'm sorry. Oh my God, why me, why me? I feel the burning heat. The devil don't want you to hear me. Baby, hear me out. Baby, hear me out. The